Texas is both the second largest state in the US after Alaska and second in population after California. There are few states in the US that carry with it the same level of stereotypes, whether it be the Texas gunslinger, oil patch worker, or cattleman. Texas evokes a strong image whenever you mention it. But Texas is so much more. The tech scene in Austin rivals Silicon Valley, and the art culture in Dallas is truly amazing. Today on The Canadian Expat, we go to Texas. It gives me great pleasure to welcome my guests today, Anne-Marie and Ryan Gordon. They moved from Montreal to Texas in 2008 for work and currently live in the city of Frisco, which is just north of Dallas. Anne-Marie and Ryan, welcome to The Canadian Expat.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having us.
Let's talk about breaking stereotypes for a second. What were you surprised about in a good way when you first moved to Texas?
Well, I have to say, I thought, my stereotype of Texas was what you think, what you see in the movies. Everybody's riding around with a horse, or, I mean, really, you think that's what it is. So I was surprised to see that there's not as much of that as you would think. Some parts of the states are a little bit more stereotypical, I guess, than others. But being north of Dallas, I guess this is more of a normal, American city where you don't see that much of that.
Tumbleweeds and desert terrain. But no, it's actually quite, especially when the plane you're coming into, like, oh my God, it's like a forest down there. Lots of lakes. But Texas topography has, it's a microcosm for the entire country. I mean, there's out west, there's desert in West Texas, but then we live in North Dallas, which is very lush. Towards the center, there's lots of hill country. And on the east, there's the Gulf Coast. They'll have beaches all along the eastern border of, Houston itself has large marinas and beaches, so it's not exactly the desert terrain you would think.
You live in what can be described as the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area, or the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Can you describe what it's like living in that area?
Well, we live in Frisco. Frisco was actually voted in 2018 one of the fastest growing cities in America.
And this year
too. So it is, when we moved here in 2009, we lived in Dallas proper for about a year. It was a one-lane road. There was not as much development. And then in the past 10 years, it's boomed. Like, my parents come here once or twice a year and they can't recognize in between times that they come how much, they can't believe how much it's grown. Frisco, I guess, is where.
Yeah, it's, you can't compare the downtown. It's not a Chicago. It's not a New York. It's nothing like a metropolis like that. But what it really sets apart is how spread out it is. We live in the northern corridor of Dallas-Fort Worth and Frisco. But it would take us probably an hour with no traffic to get to the southernmost tip of Fort Worth. Frisco is very much sought after for families to settle down. Great schools, great sports complexes, amenities are all here. Major League Soccer is here. The Cowboys training facility is here.
The PGA headquarters
World Headquarters is here now.
1 block away from us.
So pretty much everything you could want. Although Montreal was a very unique place to grow up and incredible as a kid to grow up with all the sports and everything available. Dallas, and especially North Dallas, could definitely give Montreal a run for its money for youth activities and sports development and schools, and it's a fantastic place for our family.
So, down to sort of your daily life. I know you have children, so that I'm sure takes up a lot of your time. But what about your work life in that area? What do both of you do, and how does that work-life balance work for you?
So we find that in Frisco, in Texas, the stay-at-home mom, working mom, is a really flexible allows us to do that here, which I find is fantastic. There's a lot of small business owners. There's a lot of small entrepreneurs, moms that are home and they think of a concept that something that they could do, and then they just go and do it. There's a lot of that. So that allows for, work-life balance, as opposed to having your kids in daycare between 6 and 6, which I personally did not want to do. So we had to make a choice. I had my training, my background is in human resources, and worked for many, many years. And then I stopped. We had our first daughter. And then after a few years, we had a second one. And I was like, you know what? I think we can make it work, where work part-time from home, and then you go to work and I stay with the kids. And that's what we did. So I was able to become a consultant in human resource development. So training, did some sales in the training industry, and then he's ended on us. So
I do root canals.
Had to go to work.
I do root canals, and yeah, that's
what I do.
I kind of love the fact that I live in Frisco and I work in Plano, which is the next suburb south, closer to Dallas. And it takes me 10-15 minutes to get to work, 10-15 minutes back home. Even though I grew up in Montreal, we're not immune to the to the traffic and the toll that takes on your time and on your mental psyche. So it was very important when we first moved here to for that work-life balance, to be able to live relatively close to where I work. And the fact that a lot of these so-called bedroom communities north of Dallas are very self-sufficient. You don't need to go into Dallas to get the things that you need, whether it's food, entertainment, whatever. The northern suburbs have grown to the point where they're very self-sufficient. We still go into Dallas for a Stars game, for a night out, but the northern corridor really provides everything we need.
For anybody who is considering a move to that area, maybe it's for work or maybe study or whatever it might be, what sort of advice would you give somebody that is currently preparing for that move?
I would say if you're a person that's very urban, you are not going to like suburbia Frisco. We've had family members or friends that have been here in the past, and they live in downtown Montreal, and they hated suburbia Frisco because you have to get in your car to go to the grocery store. I mean, you can walk there, but it's 100 outside, so I don't think you want to do that. So you do have to commute with your car a lot. So if that's something that you don't like, I mean, we're lucky. We have our kids' school is right around the corner, so we can walk to school. The kids can bike to school. It's safe. We feel good about it. That's another thing of living in a downtown area. Sometimes you just don't feel as safe for the kids to walk around on their own. We do feel safe here.
And from a business standpoint, I'd say first, if you're thinking about coming to Texas or the United States in general, get yourself a good U.S.-based immigration attorney, and allow them to guide you through the process. I had a really great one when I first was going from my F1 student visa when I was studying to an H-1B visa, and then to work authorization, and then to green card. And now I've been a U.S. citizen for several years now. It's good to have someone in your corner guiding you through the steps. Your employer will need to liaison with them frequently, as there are frequent changes to the law. And so I was very fortunate when I was doing my residency at the University of Minnesota. I'll give a little shout out to Fager and Benson, the immigration attorney counsels in my corner, and made it very simple. I had to lug a thing of paperwork like this every time I crossed the border and have a million things stamped, and I had to go in that little room at the airport on more than one occasion while they were going through the pile of stuff. But it always worked out because I had every document, and there's a ton of them. So as long as you have an immigration attorney that's well versed and knowledgeable, your job is just to get the job, keep the job, make sure that your employers have a maybe they don't have an immigration department, but at least they have an HR person who's able to liaison with your immigration attorney, and then you can make these big decisions. There were definitely moments that it's a huge risk. I remember the time when I was in between status at my H-1B and work authorization, where theoretically, if my employer had said, you know what, this is too complicated, we're going to go get an American-based, specialist, I would have had 6 months to leave the country. It was just the two of us, and I was just renting an apartment, house, no kids. I mean, what if there's a house, and what if there's kids, and what if so there could be a very difficult road if all the precautions aren't taken. So that's what would be my best advice.
Good advice. Thanks. Now, one thing that we've instituted here now is a 6-point kind of a rating system, if you will. So I've got 6 items that I would love you to give me a rating on, between 1 and 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. And again, I completely understand this is very subjective, but in your opinion, how would you rate the cost of living in your area?
I'm going to say, what?
I would say 9.
Yeah, I'm going to say 8 or 9 for sure.
So very affordable.
Yeah, the cost, well, I mean, I don't know if today applies, but normally gas is a little bit lower than everywhere else in the country. I think that some things are more expensive. For example, sports. You can, I'm sure, put in a lot of money depending on what your kids choose to do and how often they do it and how competitive it is. Sky's the limit, but cost of living normally is, I'm going to say 8 or 9.
Especially in Dallas, the big ticket item, home and car is much, much less. I mean, you can get a lot more house. We have some friends that moved from California, and
they're so happy right now.
They can't believe how house you can get for so little compared to a California, or for that matter, a Vancouver or a Montreal or a Toronto. Compared to down here, it's really, really something.
Healthcare.
I'm going to give it a 10.
10.
Now, here's why I'm saying 10.
Okay.
I know it costs money. I mean, we have insurance through Ryan's work. But when you do get sick, when your kids do get sick, we do have the freedom to go to a clinic right next door, check it online. There's no wait. Honestly, I've lived here, and it's never happened that if I got sick or had to go to the hospital that I couldn't be seen or had to wait 24, 48 hours in the waiting room. Now, it costs money. If you are out of a job, it can be difficult on the money front to pay all of these bills if you are not healthy. But I think for us so far, it was important for us to get a good healthcare, especially for the kids. If they get sick, we want to be able to go in and not have to look for an answer, or find a doctor, or drive 2 hours away, or wait 40 hours, in a waiting room with sick people around. So I think I'm going to give it a 10.
10, absolutely.
For sure.
Fantastic. Friendliness.
10.
10.
Wow.
So the things that people, different states, different provinces is different, they each have their thing, I guess. One thing that surprised me here is when we moved in both of the places that we lived in, right away, the neighborhood reached out to us. What's your email address? We do little banco nights for girls. If the guys want to get together, whether they are older, younger, it doesn't matter. If you need anything, the first time I went to the grocery shopping here, I came home with 2 phone numbers. I was like, that's crazy, I'm loving that. That's awesome.
Southern hospitality is alive and well.
Correct.
And,
what about the community of other expats?
I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay.
But when we find each other, then, we do have some French Canadian friends that we've known for a while, and we just kind of tend to find each other, and they organize little, French Canadian events that we all get together for. So yeah, 7 or 8. I guess it's not and like a daily part of our lives, but I think we could do better.
Yeah. I think probably, once every other week, someone will come in the office and see my McGill diploma. We'll say, no kidding, I went to Western, I went to UBC, or I went to UT, I went to, there's always you're never too far. It's like that six degrees of separation. You're never too far from a Canadian, fellow Canadian in Texas.
How about access back to Canada? How easy is it for you to get back to Montreal?
10?
What? Yeah, 10.
10.
We usually go twice a year. It's very important for us to expose our kids. Well, first of all of our friends and family are back there. We do have a lot of really good friends that we can call family now here in Texas. But we make an effort twice a year, at least, for us to go. And then some will come here and visit as well, additionally. I want my kids to grow up knowing the Canadian traditions, whether it is wintertime, the holidays, some of the things that we do in Montreal in the summertime as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of airlines have direct flights, Air Canada, American Airlines, so straight 3.5, almost 4, a little bit less than 4 hour flight directly from Montreal, from Dallas to Dorval. And
the border is closed, so a little bit more difficult. But
these days,
of course, yeah.
But I'm sure that will be lifted soon. But yeah, the ease, we marvel sometimes because, we might leave here at noon, leave the house at 11 a.m. or noon, and we're up in a chalet in Saint Sauveur, at 6 p.m. It's the same day, and it's really, really convenient that way.
How about the service that you might receive from a Canadian consulate or embassy?
Well, so I've had to call a few times because I had questions. For example, we decided when the girls our daughters are both Texans, they were born here. So I wanted to make sure that they had their Canadian heritage also with their citizenship. So I called the consulate, and they're the ones who gave me all this information. So it's pretty easy. I have their phone number on my speed dial in my phone. So if anything happens, because I'm still a citizen, Canadian citizen, even though citizen of U.S., but I haven't done it yet. So we just, I think it's pretty, I'm going to say 10. I haven't had any problems so far with passports and stuff. It's pretty easy.
That's awesome. Great. So very, very high for all of those items. That's fantastic.
Right.
Anne-Marie and Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us. Our pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please click that like button. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Until next time.